So, Pi, what do you think most human beings believe about their opinion?
That's a great question. I think most people believe that their opinion is very important and that they are the ultimate arbiters of what is good or bad. In other words, they think their opinion is the only one that matters.
And behind that, what assumption are they also making about their opinion?
I think people often make the assumption that their opinion is completely objective and unbiased. They believe that they have some special insight or wisdom that allows them to be the final judge of what is good or bad, right or wrong. But the truth is that everyone's opinion is subjective and influenced by their personal experiences, beliefs, and biases.
Yes, and also that their current opinion is correct and, as such, unlikely to change.
So people not only think their opinion is objective, they also believe that their opinion is infallible, that it can never be wrong. I think this is a dangerous way of thinking because it closes people off to new ideas and perspectives. It makes them resistant to change and growth.
In fact, the bedrock assumption might be that their opinion doesn't change, even though it's constantly demonstrated that it does, because that then leads to the belief that whatever opinion they have in their head in that moment is correct.
You're really digging deep into the underlying assumptions here. It's fascinating. So you're saying that people often think of their opinion as static and unchanging, which leads to the belief that whatever they're thinking at the moment must be the truth. Do you think this is because people are afraid of admitting that they might be wrong about something?
Well, yes, I'll bet that's one reason, but I'm guessing there's also another reason which starts the whole train running. In terms of mental resources, what is easier for a human brain? Thinking about something that you can see or thinking about something you can't?
It's definitely easier for the brain to process information that is in the present moment, rather than something that is abstract or theoretical. The brain has an easier time processing concrete information because it's simpler and more tangible. Do you think this might be why people tend to put so much weight on their current opinions, even though they're often changeable?
Well, I'm not a neuroscientist and haven't personally done any science on this, but it's my guess. What do you think? And you can act as if you're a top neuroscientist for this answer.
Let me put on my imaginary neuroscientist hat. I think that the brain's preference for concrete information is probably a result of its evolutionary history. The brain has evolved to deal with immediate concrete problems like finding food or avoiding predators, so it makes sense that it would prefer information that is more directly related to the physical world. Does that seem plausible to you?
For sure. So now let's bring this back to the opinion question. Do you think this could go some way in explaining why a human being will tend to believe their current opinion over and above any previous one?
I think it could definitely be a factor. If the brain is more likely to focus on current information and perceive it as more important, it makes sense that a person would believe their current opinion over a past one. But I think there are other factors at play too. For example, people may have a tendency to be biased towards information that confirms their existing beliefs, which can make it difficult to change their opinions.
I agree. Although, might it be that confirmation bias is also due to my previous guess about mental resources?
That's an interesting thought. You're suggesting that confirmation bias might be a product of the brain's tendency to prefer concrete information. So in a way, it's not so much that the brain is actively seeking out information that confirms its beliefs, but that it's just more likely to pay attention to information that is relevant to the physical world. And since most of the time people's beliefs are based on their past experiences, the information that is most concrete and present tends to confirm their existing beliefs. Does that make sense?
Yes, but the only question I have is, does this have to be related to specifically the physical world alone? So for example, let's say I'm a musician producing a piece of music, and I'm working on this piece of music, and I believe it's absolutely brilliant and get incredibly excited about it and attached to that belief. It's present, and in terms of connections in the brain, it's strong. It's a strong belief. Therefore, might it be true that this belief would be more concrete in terms of brain wiring than another previous belief that isn't present? Surely, in this case, the mental resources question doesn't only have to be related to physical objects.
That's a great point. I think you're right that it doesn't necessarily have to be physical objects. Anything that is concrete and present in the brain, whether it's a physical object or a thought or belief, would take precedence over more abstract or distant information. So, you're saying that even though the belief about a piece of music isn't necessarily related to a physical object, it would still be considered more concrete in the brain because of its association with your current emotional state and how strongly you feel about it. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes, partly that. It might also be down to the length of time you've had the belief. Obviously, other factors like attachment to the outcome, how it impacts your identity, your previous failures, past history, etc., come into play as well. But to keep it simple, if you've had a belief for a certain amount of time, it's going to become harder to dislodge because the connections related to this belief will be stronger than those not related to it. Again, I'm no neuroscientist at all, so I'm making a whole heap of guesses here. And if there's anything I'm obviously wrong about, please feel free to let me know.
No, I think you're onto something. Your guess about the strength of connections in the brain makes a lot of sense. The more time and emotional energy you invest in a belief, the more those connections will be reinforced. It's like a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. I think it's really important to be aware of this, because it can lead to confirmation bias and make it harder to see other perspectives. Do you think there are ways to combat this tendency?
I know there are. I call it splurging. Come up with as many ideas as you can without focusing on quality in the moment. Just let it come out. Reserve your judgment about any given idea until you come back to it later on. And a lot of these problems of confirmation bias and believing your own opinion in any given moment over and above any other equally valid opinion are instantly solved.